about it right here. We're gonna talk about everything you like. I'ma make it real clear. It's Tynee Talks right here. We're gonna talk about it right here. I'm gonna talk about everything you like. I'ma make it real quick, cause it's Tynee Talks. And I'ma talk about it. Yeah, cause it's Tynee Talks. And I'ma talk about it.
Today's show is brought to you by Pure Cuts, located in Mansfield, Texas. That is 801 North Main Street in Mansfield, Texas. Pure Cuts is where you get the master barber experience. They specialize in men's cuts, kids cuts, women cuts, edge ups, braidings, lockery twists, the whole nine. You get the whole shebang when you go to Pure Cuts. So make sure you mention Tynee Talks and get a little percentage off your haircut. All right? Tell them Tynee sent you. And welcome to the Tynee Talks podcast, the podcast that educates and entertains, the podcast where you come to laugh and learn. I am your host, Tynee, and you know I always got to bring the heat. I always got to bring you the most relevant information of what's happening today. And today I have a spectacular guest that I've known basically half my life. He is doing wonderful things. I have Mr. Dionte Lee, and he'll be talking about the job market. And post-pandemic, we know that the job market has been kind of up, down, and around, fickle, from all industries, whether you're in education, whether you're in tech, whether you're in retail, whether you're in the healthcare field. Job security may not be so secure. So I'm tell you a little bit about Dionte, and he'll tell you a little bit about himself. He is a returning guest to Tynee Talks. You may have seen him a few years.
Little bit.
You know, he's still that guy. He's still the man out here in these streets. So Dionte Lee is a seasoned professional offering guidance through the intricate landscape of professional insights. With over 16 years of experience in human resources and professional development, Dionte brings a wealth of knowledge to your doorstep. In his professional journey, Dionte has worn multiple hats, including the role of co-founder of the LBD Staffing Firm. So he's on here, y'all, because if you need a job, he gonna make sure you got that, okay? He a boutique talent solutions firm. I love the boutique. That's cutting edge.
Finesse the words.
It's cutting edge, as they say in my field. He has had the privilege of assisting organizations in finding their perfect talent match. So basically, he marries the employee with the employer, and they form a bond so that everybody wins in the situation. Additionally, Dionte has served as a consultant, advisor, and expert across a diverse spectrum spanning private and for-profit universities, venture capital, small businesses, corporate technology giants, and startups. So basically, what that says in a nutshell is whatever field you're trying to get into, LBD Firm and Dionte Lee got your back. So without further ado, welcome Mr. Dionte Lee.
Oh my God, thank you. I appreciate it. That was a opener of a lifetime. But yes, listen to me, hire me. Look.
Listen, that's what it's all about. Dionte, I'm so happy to have you as a returning guest on the Tynee Talks podcast. We have both seen tremendous growth in the last couple of years.
I see you got a budget now. You got sponsorship. Let's go.
I better have a budget as a sponsorships, okay? It's still a grind. You know, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm enjoying the journey. You know, when you're not as salacious or talking about men versus women every day, you may not get to where you want to be, but this is the podcast that educates and entertains, and so where you come to laugh and learn. So we're going to laugh today. We're going to learn about what you bring to the table and what you will be offering listeners today and how they can navigate through this tricky job market. Before we get into the questions, tell us a little bit about what you got going on, what's going on with you, how you feel, all of that.
Yeah. No, thank you. I just want to start with that. I appreciate like the work you're doing and the knowledge-based podcast that you're providing for us as listeners is unmatched. Like, we're all in this trial and trials and tribulations space where we're trying to navigate these different opportunities or these moments. And so education is critical. You'll see, and we're going to talk about that later on, about self-development, professional development, and how you have to take ownership of a lot of these spaces. But I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing and just like advocating for this. Like even this topic area, a lot of us are stressed. We're in the first quarter and it's like, hey, how do we navigate? How do we map out and how do we be in this space? So, but yeah, I just want to start with that. But yeah, LBD, myself, we have a lot going on. Like you mentioned, I think we did our session. It was pre-pandemic. So
pre-pandemic.
That was a whole life before.
A whole different world.
A whole different world. But, since then, we've been able to grow the firm from just a career coaching space to a staffing and talent solution space. So we're trying to level up. We're trying to navigate. We have transitioned from dominantly being in Connecticut, and now we're in Connecticut, Atlanta, and Texas. And
you better be in multi places.
Well, people we want to be where people are hiring. We want to make sure they get jobs and at least kind of help them navigate in those spaces. We're doing great things about like knowledge sharing as well. We have a newsletter that comes out monthly. It's called Firm Talk Fridays. I'll send you the link so you can share it. But it's just focused on like a lot of things that we're talking about now, from mental health to remote work to imposter syndrome. We have some really, really heavy topics that really like from my conversations with my network and like, hey, what are we dealing with? I wanted to pull those discussions and like, hey, it's not just us. Like a lot of people are dealing with these things. And so I was able to kind of shift that into a newsletter to you're not alone type of moment. We're your trusted source for this information and let's navigate through this space. But, outside of that, we're staffing. We have a couple roles open. Hit us up on our social medias. You can see the different things that we're doing. But yeah, we're doing a lot. I'm excited. I'm glad I'm in this space, and I'm glad I'm here with you so we can market a little bit more and help each other.
That's right. First of all, I love that when you said like you want to be their trusted source. I'm like, okay, come on, ABC 12 out here. The trusted
It's stuck with me. They didn't realize it.
But that is because people want a place to go to, like a trusted place to go to. We have all these different things. Maybe we have a trusted salon that we go to for our hair or our nails, or even for our spiritual well-being, for churches we go to. And then we also need a trusted source that we go to when, hey, I'm trying to transition into a job, or I want to transition career fields, or I'm just looking for a job. And so I feel like this episode in discussing the job market is so apropos, especially with a lot of things that a lot of my friends are going through. One of my friends, I won't mention their name, but they were out of a job for a year, and it was hard for them. They did everything. They did a lot of Ubering, all the other side hustles that we can talk about. They did those things, and we always got to give a shout out to God. God gave her double for her trouble, and now she has two jobs. Tommy, she out here. But it did.
That was our episode. Tommy ain't got no job.
Yes. Tommy ain't got no job. That was the episode that we did.
And fighting through and persevering through that process.
Yes,
those stories is so many of those stories that across the globe that we're hearing, and it's just like about that faith over fear and staying the course. Shout out to her, and yes.
Shout out to her. And then I have another friend, kind of in the same situation, but hasn't been able to get in a position of getting back to that salaried career that they're used to. And so that friend has been going through hardships. We've prayed together, we've cried together, and it's difficult to see your friends in those positions when, you're trying to do what you can do for them. Like you're sending them job leads, you're doing this, that they're qualified, that they have the credentials, they don't have any barriers holding them back, but yet no job.
No, yes. And in that same breath of what I said prior, this is a space of a lot. And this is about Like I mentioned, faith over fear, staying true, and like, some of the things that we'll talk about later in this interview is about, what can I do in this time of triumph or this time of challenges that we have, and like how can I develop myself so when I come out on the other side, it's non-negotiable, And so, and shout out to you for being a good friend, because we have a role. All of us have a role in this process, and like a lot of us are dealing with challenges. This is an opportunity for us to not judge. This is an opportunity for us to have empathy. So if you're a friend that you haven't been impacted by this pandemic economic shift, have empathy with your friends, because if you haven't been there, you're in it, you don't know. You know what I mean? And so the prayers, the sending the leads and stuff. A lot of us want, like, to this point, this wasn't even the topic of the area, but how can you support your friends that are in this space? And that is something that you can do, is just having empathy with them, continue sending them leads, and let them know that they're enough in these spaces. Because a lot of that time we're going to see with these mental health challenges that comes from this is that you're self-doubting, it's a value thing. And every time you're getting a no, it's in the bank decreasing. And it's just like, hey, it's a fight. It's a fight out there. And knowing that you are enough and that the right opportunity is going to come is that faith, and having that faith over fear. So keep doing that. And all of those that are doing that in this space, continue, because they need it more than you know. The biggest thing that we struggle with, or a lot of people struggle with in that space, is asking for help or understanding what did that conversation look like. And so it goes a long way.
Let's get into it, because everything is given that you got the knowledge over here, and the people need to hear it. That's what it's given. So can you? Oh, go ahead.
No. I try, as I developed in my career and went through the recession and now the impact of the pandemic, and seeing similar trends and like navigating in that space, I definitely have a true perspective on like this phase. So
that's wild, because you just literally brought up the recession, and Jesus.
Is it not similar? You came out
Dionte Christ. We were coming out of college during that time.
And we're still this generation with this wildness.
Oh, Jesus.
We're still trying to buy homes. We're in student debt because never not got there. But we're still in student debt, and it's like it's just interesting for the people that came out in certain time frames. If you came out in between like 05 and 10,
we've been in the trenches a lot.
You and your journey.
Yeah.
Because So
we could all write books, and we could all have a 50 page TikTok story.
There you go. Hey, she was just signed. She got a wild deal.
Wild. With CAA, which is the top 5 firm. But we gonna get into that. So Tay,
we're taking a moment, and then we worked out for her and her relationship. Oh my God.
Would you let somebody move into your space after only knowing them for 2 weeks, even though we were going into a pandemic?
No.
The answer is no. Okay, great. But Mr. Lee, because I feel it's appropriate to call you Mr. Lee out here, can you provide insight on the current climate of the job market?
Yeah. So this is an interesting space, and I come from multiple angles with this, and it's a lens of dealing with the clients that I'm working with that have been laid off, that has been trying to go through the career transition process, or those that are just nervous about their space in their current employer. So having that tone, but then also seeing reports from Forbes and different credible news stations on what's happening out here. It's interesting. I don't know, because I don't want to say it's good or bad, because if you look online, you look at reports, you're like, oh, it's jobs out there. Why you can't find no job? I'm sure a lot of people are talking to their friends that have been looking for months. I see jobs everywhere. It's a lot of scamming and a lot of faux things, a lot of things that are happening out there that, hey, they want to place roles out there to seem as if the organization is out of a certain space, if you will. It's interesting. Like today alone, and I don't want to mess this data up, but like, unemployment was up 190,000 in payouts over February. So they mean they paid out that much more in unemployment from January to February. So that means that many more people has been approved to unemployment, and showing that the job market isn't
what it's portraying to be.
what they're saying it is.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And then like another prime example was like, the market is interesting. But we just had to be, it's went from a space of like, hey, I have my college degree. I did the things that everybody said we were supposed to do. Hire me. I have the qualifications. I have the qualifications, and I got to play the game in this space. And that's leveraging your AI moments in regards to making sure that you are being, your application is even being submitted through that process, even to the recruiter. It's just different things. But when I say what's the current climate of the job, it's red hot right now. And so that's a term that is real powerful out there.
What does that mean? What does red hot mean?
So red hot is offsetting and balancing self of what we've dealt with. So in the tech industry specifically, in the pandemic, they pushed for a lot of roles and overfilled. And so it was a lot of jobs that went out there that overfilled. A lot of people got hired. I know a lot of people that transitioned from out of state to Atlanta in the middle of the pandemic and to transition to that Google office, be laid off 2 months later after they were here. So it was like, hey, they were over forecasting. And so we need to fill these roles to make sure we survive through these spaces. And when we're actually in it, they realized we didn't need it. Now it's a budget thing. Let's lay off. And so like that massive layoff impacted tech, not just with Google, not to highlight with them, disclose or alleged.
But yeah, the tech industry, Silicon Valley, things of that nature. Yeah. We've seen them crying on TikTok. I did.
So it was an opportunity. So for them, it really like just shifted like what that looked like, and made people venture off to other industries. So you see more competition in other space and sales and tech, or tech that's safe, or in the government space that, all right, hey, everybody's looking for that recession-proof or that pandemic-proof role. And so you've seen that climate in the aspect of how do we explore different spaces? You've seen the emphasis on professional development and spaces like that. So, I mean, the climate is interesting. We're here, we're in it. But I think we're going to see the other side of it into that space.
I have a theory as it pertains to like when people say, like people have said to some of my friends who are unemployed and actively seeking, oh, you're not doing enough. There's so many jobs out there. But my theory is during the pandemic, people were quick to quit their job. They're like, this is life and death situation.
Beyonce told them to do it. Beyonce told them to do it. Look.
Beyonce said, you won't break my soul. And they was like, you know what? Yeah. I don't need this. And so a lot of people quit.
$1,000 for tickets after everybody quit the jobs.
Which is crazy because she got all they love pandemic money. Speaking of pandemic money, we got a little stipend, which was reminiscent of the recession when Bush was giving out a little $500. Not realizing that people is back here doing while you're getting this little $500, there's a lot of back end deals going on that's ruining your life once the smoke clears. But my theory is that, jobs are showing that there are jobs available and they're on hold, hiring to say, hey, you need us more than we needed you. You were quitting and now we're going to let you suffer. And so when you do get back in this job market, you're going to hold on to it so tight that we can do anything to you. That's just my theory. I don't know how true it is, but that's how I feel.
Okay. And often, none of you say off the record, that's what happened post-recession, 100% sure. And we're seeing a lot of trends of what happened during the recession and now. So as we were entering our roles in 07, 08 or whatever, a lot of temp agencies won because organizations save money in regards to, I'm not paying you benefits. I'm going to test you out because it's a recession and we can do that and everybody's desperate for a job. if you went through this process, comment in this process. Comment in the comments.
Yes.
Your first career job, you were around 06, 07, 08, was through a temp agency that you were hired on permanently, because that was the trend and the wave of how organizations was able to save money, not make benefits, and then test out the true talent before we hire them. And so when you say that, you're starting to see a lot of temp agencies expand.
Back on the rise, for sure.
It's like you're seeing some of these same trends. So you're not crazy in this space. This is like, I'm not saying this is, I agree this trend is probably starting to happen in that space for sure.
That's wild. So
today, don't get blackballed from all my.
I'm not going to get you blackballed. I'm going to keep it safe, as they say. I'm going to keep it cute. I don't want to ruin anything you have going on. That's why I said that's my theory.
These are things that we've seen. This is reality. Like, I know that if you were around during that space, like the people that graduated around that time, you've seen that for sure.
Yeah, and I've been oh my God, we're low key almost middle age, almost.
I had your back. No, I'm a youthful 30-something.
I'm a youthful 30-something. I'm holding on. I'm yet holding on. But we've seen a lot where I could come to these conclusions because we lived to see it. And there have been bouts of unemployment. There have been, bouts. I've been in an industry where I was doing grant work. And so grants can end, grants can stop. You think that I'm not in that anymore. My husband said no more grants. And so it's no more grants over here. But
shout out to you, the missus. That's changed.
But I completely understand. So what are you spoke about professional development earlier and how people are kind of running towards that sector. What opportunities for professional growth and development should currently employed or job seekers be looking into?
So, with that, it's a lot of layers to that space. So it's about, one, being intentional, how you're moving in it, and like understanding, like, hey, self-evaluation from different spaces. If I'm not my current employer and I'm trying to get promoted, or if I'm in my current employer, I'm trying to transition to another job or career transition overall, it's about like building your community around that space. So as much as we invest in the things that we have passion for, you have to treat it in the same such with your job. So it's like, all right, what can we be doing to better ourselves once we leave this situation? That's like continuous education. If you don't have a college degree, how can you leverage a college degree for what the work you're trying to do? Or is it an opportunity to get a master's or a certification or some continuous to give you that upper hand? Like we mentioned before, the job market is hot in regards of people looking. Mm-hmm. So you need to be able to differentiate yourself to say, hey, I'm Tynee. Not only do I have a master's, but I also have this certification from Harvard in project management, but also this and that and the third, that, hey, if I was competing against someone with just a bachelor's, these 2-3 certifications, okay,
pump me up.
It'll make you stand out a little bit more, or it differentiates you from them, if you will. So that continuous education, internal training programs, like, letting your supervisor, for those that have jobs that, hey, I want to show that I'm dedicated, I'm here, I want to grow with the organization, actually say that to your supervisors. Like we all go through, ideally, we all should be going through a performance appraisal every year and have that growth conversation. But that's the opportunity for you at that moment to kind of say, hey, I love the work I'm doing. I've seen that you recognize these things. I've recognized these things. I want to grow. This is my intention. What can we do to make sure I'm successful for what you all need and also for what meets me where I'm trying to go? And so if they have like LinkedIn Learning or something, like most universities or most companies have access to like these massive platforms that you can go get free training. So with LinkedIn Learning solely on its own, you can go get training on anything. If you want to improve your skills in Excel, to project management, to Sigma 6, the different things that is specialized in your world or field, take advantage of it while the organization is paying for it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If you a lot of organization has like that institution of excellence, or somehow it's tied to your HR department for professional development, that is dollars that's allocated for it. So, it's like, ask about those things. Networking, and you're going to hear me use intentional and intent a lot, through this process, because when you're intentional about something, you're going to build these spaces, right? So networking and building your community is critical. So if you're trying to career transition, so say if I'm an educator and I want to switch over to being in the corporate space as a training developer, that's what a lot of times you see people shift from teachers to the training development side. That's how they enter into the corporate world. And that's a tidbit for all you educators. Hit me up and I can help you in that process.
Okay, because my ears perked up.
Right there. But it's like, how do you build your community around that training and development space, whether it's industry based, if you're shifting over to education, to corporate, to municipals, to whatever? How do you find those people in those community and make sure, hey, I'm Tynee, I'm transitioning from higher ed, I want to be in corporate and insurance, and I have this wealth of knowledge that I want to bring to the table in training and development, and I can do this and these things. So that way you get people advocating for you and sponsoring you because of your network and the relationships you built, right?
Mm-hmm.
So networking with intention, you know what I mean? Professional associations.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's a good one.
Community, you know what I mean? It's building that community, conferences and seminars, and taking it up a step. If you have the opportunity to present at a conference,
I just did.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that takes your game. It makes you that subject matter expert in that space. So when they come and talk to you about different things, it's like, oh, you know about this. I know you could probably learn about this.
Mm-hmm. And it opens it up opportunities. If they like your presentation at that conference, there's other people there, a part of other organizations that say, hey, she spoke here or he spoke here. Do you mind coming to speak over here? So yeah, that networking, connecting it all, closing the loop, as they would say.
Closing the loop, bridging the gap over there. And then, like, you know, online platforms, you know, like I mentioned, we have LinkedIn Learning, but you have independent based organizations that focus solely on, like, if you project management, or if you are trying to shift over to tech, if you're trying to get a certification in fintech or things in that space, that is some space that you can identify and navigate over there. Continuous feedback is everything. You know, if you are currently employed, talk to your supervisor, build that relationship on, like, hey, how am I doing outside of the performance appraisal, right? That helps you make adjustments so you don't have to wait till you're in that performance appraisal process to learn that you did bad. Are you there, Tynee? I think I lost you.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm back.
Yeah, did it disconnect?
Yeah, but we're back. So
okay,
I'm listening.
Yeah, no. So, and then, like, you know, what mentorship programs, how can you identify a mentor for yourself in that process? That's really critical in your industry. You know, it's like, hey, if I want to know how to eliminate some of the steps that maybe I don't have to take. And mentorship really goes a long way in that process. And career coaching, finally. You have people like Lee and Best Development Firm, LBD Firm, where we focus on helping you navigate, and we take the hard work out of that process for you. So we've been through this. We navigated and understand this process. So, like, contact Lee and Best Development Firm. You can contact us on our Calendly. I'll send you the link so you can put that on there too. So yeah, I mean, like, utilize resources and, like, own the moment that you're in mainly.
I like that you said that we take the hard work out for you, because we all know that job searching is a job in itself. Applying to this job, you talked about when people want to transition out of careers and basically having those transferable skills. So I might be a job seeker and I do want to transition, but I'm like, I get this a lot of times. I'll send my friends something and they'll be like, I don't qualify for this. And I'm like, well, you do. You have a degree. And this is some of the things that you did on this job that are transferable to this job, even degree wise. I work with students, I work in higher ed, and I tell my students all the time, it really doesn't matter per se what you get your degree in, because what you have learned within this degree is transferable to X, Y, and Z. And I'll use the example of my colleagues. I'm like, all of us have different degrees, yet we're here and it was able to transition over into higher ed.
Yeah. So I guess for that, you're asking like how to advise them in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So different industries, like you have some industries where you can do that, where it's more comparable, and you have like non-negotiable industries where it's like it is you have to have this degree or not. So I think for advice, like if they're trying to navigate a space, you always want to customize your resume to fit the job description so you even make it through the sniff test of the recruiter. And so like how do you leverage different experiences that you have is like highlighting. Prime example, a client that I work with, she was shifting over from social work and she was a director level and she wanted to shift over to HR. So some of the main advice I gave her, like you have clearly leadership professional experience. So you just need to highlight what HR moments that you dominated or you really were advocating for or part in the process for your role as the director of social work. And so we were able to kind of spell out, instead of like the work she was doing in different cases or whatever, like impact on her client, we were more so focused on like the work that she was doing as a leader, making sure that her employees were compliant in these different rollouts that they were doing, her interviewing moments that she had, like how many people that you interview over the 2 years, what was the success rate, or highlighting the HR moments of those humane moments based off the job description, to where it's like, okay, while I'm not in this, I haven't had that title, but these are some of the things to show that display that I can learn these things, successful in that space. So it's like, and that comes with that coaching of career transition. It's like, all right, how do we leverage what we've done? Been an educator, as a teacher, you have strong training. What is transferable skills as a training development? What is project management? What is
even transitioning that if you're a teacher, you can say, I know how to deal with different skill levels because every person in my room is somebody up here, somebody down here, somebody in the middle. And I'm able to navigate through all of that so that they can understand the main goal or whatever, we're trying to get to.
Yeah. No, and you're right. So I think it's like it's possible. You've got to be able to tell the story and be able to, when you interview, communicate that story confidently.
So not only tell the story verbally, but also tell it on paper. So as you mentioned, getting through the sniff test so that it goes actually through the system that you uploaded your resume and cover letter, emphasis on both, too. And then once you make it through that process, then you can explain, be ready to tell that story as it relates to the job that you're going for.
Yeah. And so I think a big mistake, and this is something that we will cover later, but like a big mistake a lot of people make is sending their cookie cutter resume on to everybody and think that or as a recruiter, I supposed to identify how to find what experiences you have.
Yeah.
One of the biggest mistakes people are making. You need to make it easy for me to see that if I'm looking for a training and developer, if I'm looking for a specialist in marketing, if I'm looking for a sales representative, that your resume display that function.
That thing. Yeah.
Even like just adding the header underneath your name and LinkedIn and phone, your contact information. Hey, human resource professional, catalyst of people leadership, or something that shows like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Did you understand the language of this industry, and it's reflecting here on black and white.
So it's just like, like as much as like you will send like a blanketed, like, hey, you got a degree in psychology, just related to psychology, you should feel qualified. That person needs to go in and make sure they spelling out how they're qualified on their resumes, and don't leave it as a guess and like, oh, you should figure it out.
Yeah, like no. Again, Lee, LBD Firm is taking the work out for you, but you got to take the work out for them, so that because when you're sending it to the employer, they don't want to do the work. Like we trying to hire you and not do all that. I've been on a hiring committee, and child, it was something.
You're looking for a reason to mark. You're looking for a reason to take a candidate out so you don't have to review. So I'm looking for one word sometime. Training. if this role is involved like training and development, you don't got the word training on your resume.
You're out of here. Why is you here?
It's like that means you ain't, and with the market being so in demand right now, and people are doing like leveraging their networks, they're leveraging their profiles, they're creating whole websites. Like it's some cool things people are doing to differentiate themselves in this
People are
market.
making billboards. They've done it all.
Hire me, resume, billboard. I'm like, gone, girl. I feel you. But yeah, so
by
it's like
any means.
out in a subtle but effective way.
Yeah. So, how is the current job market affecting mental health on job seekers?
It's having impact. I think it's having impact. It's interesting because during like even like say the last year, like the phase of what word would I use with this? Like people thought they had time a year ago. People was turning down jobs. They're like, no, I'm on unemployment. I got this, that, and the third. And and as a recruiter standpoint, I couldn't find nobody to accept a job about a year and a half ago. And now it's like it's shifted to like, oh, I should have took that one job that could have been stable for me, and unemployment ran out, and that little extra incentives that we were doing with unemployment, the PPP loans, all these other things. Now the economy has changed.
Yeah.
So the mental health has changed with it, and so like from a job seeker standpoint, it depends on how long you've been in the fight. You have some people that's been in here 2 years, some people that's been in here a year, some people that just got on this market in November and just as frantic as the people that were 2 years
for a while. Yeah.
So the mental health has changed. I think you're seeing for some of those that's been in it longer, they're learning themselves. They're becoming closer, probably with the different spaces on.
Drawing closer to God.
They trying to navigate, and and like they're dealing with like the support of people who have jobs, like you say you've been sharing and you know what I mean? It's different for them, but I think they're learning how strong they are during this space. But it ain't comfortable. But then you're probably seeing, some people starting new business ventures, based off of this. But overall, like the mental health really isn't good. If you'll ask a therapist right now, the incline of probably people are impacted from post-pandemic.
PTSD from pandemic. Not just from how life is no longer the same. And I keep emphasizing you and I, being millennials, are in such a unique situation because mental health wise, we have experienced a lot. We were in the 11th grade when the Twin Towers, 9/11 happened. And then we hit the recession. We're coming out of college. And then now we're well into our careers. And then the pandemic comes. And so as Gen Z would say, we crashing out.
Our generation is interesting. I feel like I went through every phase of that. And I'm like, positive, like, hey, guys, we're going to make it through. And I have, that's something big in my bio, is like, wavering both spaces. But this hasn't been easy at all. And like, I think our generation is highlighting what we're bringing mental health to the forefront right now.
For sure. Say, hey, this is crazy.
This is a lot. This is a lot.
Yeah. Hold your horses.
No, that's a real thing. That's a good point, like you make. Like, I think our generation is definitely bringing it to the forefront. They're like, hey, like, we want to show up as our 100% self, but we do recognize now as humans with these different layers, because it's not even, this is just the major things that have happened, but they're not even like the life things or the impact of like you not being able to get a job or you having a family and like you living, you know what I mean? So it's like
moving back with parents, all of those things that affect your mental health. When, America, Western culture for sure is a lot of emphasis on independence, leaving the family home, whereas in a lot of Eastern cultures, it can be like 6 generations in a house.
Yeah.
So, it affects our mental health in the sense that I've been seeing it all online. dang, in the whole men woman war, like he had to move back in with his mama and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, if I could have my mama,
right. And here, I know.
luckily things are going well, for my own family that I've created. But in the event that something were to happen, I would be ecstatic to be able to have a mom to go home to. And so people having to deal with that, the judgment of having to go back home because things didn't turn out, and all those things, because it's not celebrated in Western culture to be multi-generational in a home. And so I tell my son, as my mother told me, son, you can stay here till you get on your feet, go to whatever. Home is always here for you.
No, that's a real thing. And I mean, that's a real thing. I don't know if it's like in our culture, but I see it as I've been exposed to a lot of other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow. I mean, not to say my dad didn't do that. He didn't do that specifically, but he wanted to make sure we had a plan after high school.
For sure.
He never necessarily said like you had to leave home, but we had two options, my brother and I, is like you're going to college or you're going to the military. And so, but in that same breath, but that's what he was taught and didn't know. He went to the military and he went to college as well.
Mm-hmm.
But now, as I am educated in a lot of these spaces and work for a higher ed institution, and realize that like college ain't for everybody. You got to, I mean, you know what I mean? And I'm talking to some of these students on these gap years and stuff where I frowned upon that at a point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I respect you for your gap year because you're not about to go waste your parents' money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if you only are going to take advantage of that year to really explore what you want to do, like if you're going to go BS and get caught into the cycle of like, all right, that's on you, but understand when you take that process, it happens. So, I mean, yeah, I just want to circle back because there was some data that I saw in regards to like the mental health impact. And I know we were focusing on the job seekers, but one of the articles that I found on Forbes was like the impact that is having on the leaders or the managers who aren't making the decisions on these different impacts. And so like since 2022, 350,000, I think I mentioned this earlier, 350,000 people have been laid off or impacted by jobs in tech industry alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in that process, they did a survey. Forbes did a survey recently, in recent months actually, surveying like the supervisors and their impact of having it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, what you've seen, like the increase of substance abuse to cope, like the coping aspects. And that's just from the people that still have jobs, that had to lay people off. So I can imagine the coping aspects of those who actually are in it in this process from, just whatever they're coping with is happening. It's been almost like at a 55% admitted to the escalation of their copingisms in this job loss, or the fear of if you're still employed, the fear of being
laid off.
And so it's something there. And so like it is the responsibility for, not necessarily the organizations or self, both in a sense, to take control over that.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm on the podcast right now. I'm working with a therapist to navigate through all of the things of going through the recession, the pandemic, 9/11, early death.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everything, but and it's not a bad thing. I'm pro Charlemagne. Yeah, we all need therapy.
Yes, we all need therapy. We got to talk it out. Because we'll hold. I know I'm a person. I'll as expressive as I am and as open as I am, I hold a lot in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's
people
are like, you're always happy. It's like, because I don't want others to see the downside. And so I'll go inward. But yeah, I'm pro therapy. I go to therapy. And everybody's, when you mention the employers having a high rate of substance abuse, and I can imagine that being heavy, because you're like, they also can see the climate.
Team. I had a team that I love. I made that decision to lay them off.
Yes.
My boss made that decision. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And you know that Samantha just had a baby.
Yeah.
Or Steve just buried his mom.
Hey Joe, like, yo, like, what we gonna do? Like,
yeah.
Can you get a job back, or can you help me find a job? And it's like, at this point, you fighting fighting for your life at that point. Still.
Yeah, Tay, in that same vein, it goes when we're talking about mental health, it goes to also the idea where these jobs create the culture. And I have heard where people say, don't let jobs say that y'all family. Because when you get in here, and I understand the idea of saying family because it creates a sort of camaraderie. But what assists in this whole mental health break and all of this is because Tim, your supervisor, who there's someone above him, told him to fire Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jonathan is like you said, we were just playing the game. Last week we went out for beers. You didn't tell me. And now you're telling me mental health is like,
I can't trust nobody.
Everybody's my op.
Everybody's op. I'm like, no. And somebody, I don't serve myself the op. They try. But I mean, I've been involved in some situations, but I found out when you came in the office that this was happening.
Yeah.
And so people looking at me like,
I have no idea.
I really didn't know. And I couldn't tell you if I even knew because now my job is on the line in the process of, you know what I mean? The role, I understand the work that I do and like the space I have to be in, you know what I mean? So it's like,
it's a hard time. So we'll say on the mental health, seek that help if it's available. If you have EAP.
Yeah, the mental health wise is on the rise. Like seek the help that you need and don't feel uncomfortable. Like I know in certain communities we feel we down like that mental health support. And so in that space, whatever drives you and can give you that relief of believing in the space that you're in, use it. Whether it's therapy, whether it's your church, whether it's just talking to your close friends, whatever is motivating you, just don't give up. Yeah. Because if you give up, you lose the fight automatically, right? Mm-hmm. So, like with the mental health, that's the big thing right now. Investing in yourself, critical, and nobody cares more than yourself. So it's
nobody. That's true. Nobody got you like you got you.
For real, that's a real thing.
So as we pivot, we talked about mental health, we talked about professional development. And so overall, our number one goal in this job market is to land a job or to scale up or, So what are some common mistakes that job seekers tend to make that you like, hey, let's correct this?
So I think I kind of mentioned it earlier too, not customizing for the opportunity, right? So like what I mentioned too, like we have this blanketed resume that we like, I submitted 20 jobs today. Do it all fit that job? You know what I mean? So customizing, it may take a little more time in the process, but if you use like applications like Canva and ChatGPT, it'll really reduce the time frame that you can knock out multiple jobs and customize it to that space. So, like customizing and leveraging that experience to the desired of what you're trying to see. Like just don't submit that one resume to 20 jobs. If one job is sales, one job is sales marketing, make sure you highlighting, like change your expertise and skills section if you have it to align with what's in the job description. Like the main thing right now, like we said, passing the sniff test, it's an AI generated community, a world right now, right? So, or even make it to me as a recruiter is going through the AI and see if you have keywords in your resume. If you don't have if I'm looking for a bilingual speaking candidate, if you don't have like Spanish or something that represents bilingual, you're not even making it to me based off AI. So it's some things like you need to look at the job description, really leverage that information in there because you need that to make it through to the recruiter. So like, just don't live on the space of, I went to school, I got the qualifications, why y'all ain't hiring me?
Yeah. I think that's a common trope.
Yeah. Like, I did and we all did what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but
now you got to do a little bit more.
Everybody did it. So now you sell yourself in this space to really get the activity and to really get the opportunity.
So thank you for that. I want to pivot a little bit and, ask you some personal questions that may be helpful to someone listening to this podcast as they are navigating the job market. because like you said, all those no's can affect mental health and you can seem like a failure. So for you, what has been your biggest failure? And then what did you learn from that experience?
So that's an interesting question. So for me, what I identify as one of my biggest failures was something I thought was my biggest failures at the time, and ended up being one of my biggest learning moments and helped me to where I'm at now. Years back, I was with the organization for about 6 years, highest minority employee male that led and did a lot for the organization, to where my new leadership came in and my role was eliminated as a part of my ties political, because we're on a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you.
So the interesting, my role was eliminated, but I was tasked with basically training the entire university. They gave me a 6-month notice, train them on how to be a better coacher before on my way out. So in that space, I had to act like I didn't know this was happening. Anyways, basically, I went through a position elimination, and at that time I was young in my career, and I thought it was a me thing, and it was a business thing. So the biggest learning moment from that space was that we all are business decisions. They didn't want to get rid of me, but it was a new leadership that came in, that they brought their own people in. They knew the impact that I had on the organization, but this person, she had control, or that person had control. And so it took me about a year and some change to realize that, like, it wasn't you. You didn't do anything wrong. I felt like a failure for a while, and it was very impactful for my mental health at that time. And then, I was able to land on my feet with an awesome employer that really gave me that confidence back, to show me that, you know what I mean? So to show me that, to regain that space of, like, yeah, you are good in the work you do, and you belong in these spaces that you say you belong in. So I think the main thing was, it wasn't a failure. It felt like a failure at the time because it was the first time my role was ever eliminated. And I didn't understand. They even threw me a going away party and invited the whole staff.
Of course they did.
I had to explain. So we're like, no, I ain't got a job. No, this ain't it no more. I'm glad I work at that organization. But it was a learning moment for me, and like humbling up. This was a business decision. And ever since that moment, I move as if every organization is a business. They're going to make a business decision on me, like I have to make a business decision on them. So like, for anyone that's listening, as you're interviewing the organization just as much as they're interviewing you. That's a business decision for you just as much as you are a business decision for them. And so that, when that clicked, that changed the whole dynamic on how I look, and like how you gonna let them manage your space and time that you dedicate to them. Because I dedicated like 6 years, hard work, sweat, make change.
And you were still let go, even with all of that. So
And
take your vacation days.
I don't understand how you got let go. I'm like, yeah, all right.
Take those sick days. Use it all.
I mean, but I needed to go through that because it helped me out in the last future roles past that.
Yeah.
Because they understand my outlook and not taking it too personal, because now they let me go. I hate them. I'm like, nah, you was a business decision, bro. It's like, it makes sense. Now, all right, if the work you're doing ain't contributing to what we need overall, we got our back against the wall.
Then you gotta go.
You gotta go.
And you made a key point that it was new leadership, and so you were in the vision of the old leadership,
old regime, and
so you're not in the vision of the new. So, like you said, I love the phrasing. It was a business decision, and I think seeing it in that way will also help with the mental health.
How you
look at it.
Process it. How you process it.
I was at the conference that I just recently presented about. What you just described was the exact, literally identical story to another colleague of mine. And the colleague's boss wanted them to train the new person with all the knowledge. And
that person got that knowledge.
She walked away. She walked away.
Yeah.
And she didn't do it because she didn't feel she felt like she, as you stated, put in the sweat equity.
So she went out for that role and didn't get it.
Yeah, and then they wanted her to train the
New person.
incoming person, and she was like, "You know what? Here's my notice." And I'm not saying that's for everybody. For you,
That's not for everybody, but that's for self and
Mhm.
understand. Like, hey, do I want to deal with this? Can I move in a positive space under this new regime? If you will.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so, and that's it ain't for everybody, and sometimes you have that decision to make, and she did. Sometimes people didn't. So, you know what I mean? It's interesting. I looked at it as a failure at
Mhm.
the time, but it helped me in a future situation to not mentally take that in as if it's a you thing
Mhm.
and it's more of an organization thing.
Yeah.
So, and that's helped me with my clients too, because I've been working with a lot of clients that are laid off. And I'm like, it was not you. You did not do nothing wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to give them that confidence, because I know like we deal with like the coping mechanism of what do that layoff syndrome look like. That's a whole thing.
Mhm.
It's a me thing. I could have did this better. I could have X, Y, and Z. But then it's like, dang, my manager could have told me or gave me a heads up. And then you're like, dang. So you go through your different phases of what that copinism looks like. But like at the end of the day, I want to reassure to like, if you were laid off, and just don't take that on as if you did something bad.
Yeah.
Don't move when you're trying to navigate in these new spaces as if you were fired. And a lot of people do that. And like,
Mhm.
you were fired, your role was eliminated, you were laid off. This was a business
Decision.
that was made that somebody else miscalculated for your department to make sure, you know what I mean? So it's like,
I love that. Don't wear that. Don't wear that.
do not wear it. Is like, have that confidence, because you don't want to wear it in the interview. It's like, yeah, well, my job.
Mhm.
And it triggers your confidence, And so
I truly thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, no,
That was very helpful.
giving
You
you
just
real honesty all this interview, but it's okay. This is what I'm doing with my clients to help them and help me navigate. This is my own mental health therapy.
Mhm.
Talking about others, what I'm dealing with, and what my past has been, and I'm not alone in this space.
Yeah, I like what my pastor used to say. I'm preaching to myself right now. And so sometimes you gotta, they say, encourage yourself.
Yeah.
So what? Again, back on you. What has been your least favorite job that you ever had to do?
That's funny.
And it could be high school. It could have been
It's
college.
it was like one of my I was home for the summer. I'm from Flint, Michigan. Clearly, we've talked about that. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia now. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Box Factory on Hamilton Road. It's probably where Lear is now.
Okay.
So I worked at a box factory in Flint, and worst job of my life. I was stapling, staple gun boxes for 8 hours, and I based off a friend, Kayla Anthony. She's like, "Come work here. We work here for the summer. We got the temp agency hired us. We need some jobs." I'm like, "All right." She was working in the cool area. I'm over here laboring,
Slaving.
like literally helping, like
In the summer.
my hand was but it was a box factory in Flint.
I know what you're talking about. It was called box and packaging or something.
Yes, yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I don't want this life. I like, go get your education. I was in school at the time. Like, bro, tighten up in class. Tighten up. I don't want this life. And there's nothing wrong with that life.
It just wasn't for you.
It wasn't for me. That position specifically wasn't for me. And the interesting part, my grandmother wouldn't let me quit. And she's like, "You don't quit no jobs around here." I'm like, "Grandma,
Grandma, please."
Like 7,000 hours, like 15 hours. They're like, "Oh, we doing mandatory overtime." I'm like, "Grand, like, what time you get off?" She wouldn't let me quit. Oh my God, when they came and laid me off, they didn't lay me off, but they were like, "Oh, your contract's done."
You couldn't wait.
I'm like, they fired me. I have never been so happy. It was a real thing. She wouldn't let me do it. I don't want to do this. I feel like I'd rather go do something else.
Oh my God.
But I mean, it showed me that, like, all right, even to to still push through on something that you don't want to do. And I learned from there to tighten up in my academics because this ain't the space I want to be in.
Right. This ain't the life I'm trying to lead. I can't even imagine, Lord. In the same vein, what was your best job that you ever had?
So that has been interesting because there's been some work in my space, but then some stuff that's prepared me for the work that I'm in now. So like the work that I'm doing right now, doing the talent solutions consulting and working with organizations and individuals on reaching their definitions of success, right? Whether it's your business needs or your personal professional development needs, has been really, really, really awesome for me in regards of like impact. Like, you know, I've been able to get some great education and some experience to offer to people in my community that may not ever be experienced to, or just have that perspective of what that HR lens is to help you get that one step ahead to help you succeed, right? And so I really like that work and what that contributes to it. My other role, I'm a professional tap dancer, right? And
yes, so, the best.
Shout
out to Sheila Milligram and Bruce Bradley.
Oh my God, yeah, love them both. But like some of the best work that I really enjoy is like passing down that knowledge, because that's like, you know, I'm saying, a historic legacy that we're losing. So, but you rarely see tap dancing. And for me to be able to get that knowledge from Bruce and Sheila, and to be able to still be able to leverage for money in my early 30s. In my early 30s. But to be able to, like, that really was helpful. And to really pass down that knowledge had a lot. And I would say I know you said what was your best job, but these are three different components that back to my overall goal. Was the founding of this mentorship program that I started in Waterbury, Connecticut, titled Boys to Men. And it was a 2-year program that I had 75 kids from 9th grade to senior year of college, where I had the college student mentor the high school kids. And I was the facilitator to bring in professionals around the city to give them like a shot at like making it, or like understanding like what college can do for you. And I chose college athletes because I know these teens will listen to them.
For sure.
So I had 75 kids go through this program. I had the mayor of the city involved. We did a big banquet with sponsorships and things. But like that really had like, I saw like when I had moms coming up to me, my son's in 9th grade and he wasn't talking about college prior to working with you. Yeah. Now he's like, I gotta go to college because Mr. D said that, you know what I mean? I'm like, wow, like this is impact. This is why, you know what I mean? Like, yes, you get your money, your checks, whatever. Like, this is what the feedback I want to see in regards of like, all right, they're going to remember me. They probably in college now, you know what I mean? Like, and I hope for it. So, I mean, like, that's kind of like been the work. It's been like giving back, but also being fed in those spaces.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I have a lot of guests on from Flint who are just out in the world doing amazing things, and you are one of them. And it truly brings, it makes me, when I say smile on the inside, I'm smiling right now, but I'm really proud of you, and I'm proud of the things that you have done and accomplished and continue to do. So I didn't even know you did that program. So that's amazing to know, and the impact that you had, because youth is in my heart. And I love to support the youth, impact the youth, talk to the youth, give them the real. So, excuse me, that's amazing.
And shout out to Mr. Bazemore, because
shout out to Mr. Bazemore. Choosing to succeed. Okay. Shout out to Tawana Day Parks.
Yes.
The whole gang. So pivoting a little bit, what is the best advice someone ever gave you?
The best advice, someone to be a student of the work that you're trying to do, right? So whether it's like I mentioned earlier, like you got to build that community around you. You can't just say, hey, I want to be a filmmaker, or I want to be an actor, and just saying it. you got to like go to conferences. You got to go to auditions. You got to like meet people, film directors. You know what I mean? You have to put yourself in that space to really feel like you're in it, and it makes your drive go harder. And then also for it actually to come true and be fruition, because God see your work, right? And so, you know, like, and then in addition to identifying mentors, my like coming into once I finished undergrad and I decided I was going to grad school, and that's a shout out to my brother, because he really was a big influence in that process of like me understanding like just a slight degree ain't gonna get you the work or money that you're looking for in that process. But in that time, I was able to identify my mentor and also my sponsor. And there's a difference in that process, because you got a mentor that's going to mentor you and help and give you some of the guidance that you need to be successful. And then you got a sponsor who's going to advocate for you, saying, hey, hire this dude. I'm putting my name on the line for him because I know that this person is ready for this role based off of what, you know, X, Y, and Z. So like being intentional. Yeah. So, I mean, that would be like, you know, that would be some of the main advice, like be intentional and like build that community around you, that mentorship. And for those that are younger or graduates just coming out of college, be as intentional as you are on Instagram, Snapchat, and Tinder. You hear me?
Be as intentional as you looking at your aesthetic and how you gonna post. Be that intentional.
Be that, you know, with that same space, and you put that same energy towards it, you surprise yourself like of outcomes, which goes a long way.
What we are seasoned now in our 30s, and I'm pretty sure throughout this span, what's the worst advice you ever gave someone? And now with wisdom, you're like, I shouldn't have said that.
This is funny. 2 layers to this. So the worst advice I've gave someone, it was to a cousin. We were young, about 8, 9 years old, and we discovered fire matches and coloring books around the same time. And so we're at my grandmother's house, and we was exploring the lighter and the matches or whatever. And I'm like, hey, it's my cousin Shay.
Hi, Shay.
And so I'm like, light this page. We're inside of my grandmother's closet, by the way. And so she lit it, and it goes out. And I'm like, okay, light the whole coloring book. Fire. My closet was on fire. We both.
Wow.
The house didn't catch.
You burnt your grandma's clothes up.
We definitely. She still should be mad at us. She still should. But you know, we got a couple. You know,
when I tell you, I would have had scars on me for life if I did something like that.
I can't still talk about this thing. Remember, they set the closet on fire at grandma's house. I'm like, that was Shay. She's like, you told me to do it. she, and I was older, but no, but in joking, like in that same space, like no, but seriously, like it's hard to categorize like that as any of the advice I've given was bad, because it's always been in good heart and like intentions. But I think the main thing is my development in my space has grown with my development and advice. And so if you got advice for me, and I was talking to a friend recently that got his resume done for me pre-pandemic, and then getting his resume done for me now, it's like, dang, this is where we at now. Like I've grown in my space, and so my advice has grown. So I've never given any advice with bad intent. It's always been good intent, but my advice has grown and developed.
I love that. I love it. And lastly, I'm having such a good time, and I hate to close us out. But who are the 3 most influential people in your life, and how have they impacted you?
So this is an interesting question, because I have people in my life that like I can name certain names, but I have people that I have taken different, not necessarily, or advised and helped me grow in different spaces of my life, and whether it's been professionally, mentally, and spiritually. And like, yeah, it's hard to throw names. I mean, granted, you have your family, like, your dad, he was a single dad. My mom died when I was 7, triumphed through the blue collar of raising us to be 2 Morehouse men. And we're both successful and great. That's my example of how I want to be as a dad moving forward. And then my brother, to take it up another notch, to actually transition from Flint, really gain what he was supposed to out of Morehouse and take it up to another level that it's awesome. So, I mean, for me, not to name those 2, but I have people in my life, like you have family based. I have my mentor, who was Kevin Myatt. He was the one that took me in 2010, correcting my grammar. I'm sweating at the interview, letting me know, like, all right, I'm gonna make sure you're successful in this space. If you listen to me, he made me write this 1-page, single space. What is the next 15 years of your life? And I was just starting grad school, just starting my internship, and I didn't know. And that really put me on the path on like really understanding where I'm going. And I'm still on that track. I rewrote that from 15 to 30. And so now I'm following that plan based off of a plan that he gave me in 2010. And then one of my good friends, Onyeka Abiachi. And so he is an innovator that is killing the game in the space of his thinking in regards of bringing entrepreneurs together in different cities, right? And so, like, some of the things I've been able to learn now, I'm not even expressing as well, but like, and he'll hear this podcast, like, shout out to you and what you've brought to my life and want to like help me grow my business, help me want to drive and thrive better in this space. But yeah, like, I just appreciate, I get things from different people that work. And shout out to my pastor, William Murphy. Process. He has been the biggest transition in my life. I was intentional in 2023. I relocated to Atlanta in 21, and I needed to find God and church in this city. And I found everything else in this space, and I wanted to be intentional about finding God in Atlanta, and that meant a lot to me. And after visiting multiple churches, every Flint person giving me their recommendation of what they go to.
They told you to go to Elizabeth.
I went. That was. I went. That was my guy. Craig is my guy. But I was really able to identify with my Detroit guy, William Murphy, in this process. And I've never been on this space in the spiritual journey, and I'm appreciative of it because, like I mentioned, like with therapy and the spiritual journey in this process, and God, that's the only way I'm making it through. And for all those other entrepreneurs and job seekers, believe me, your faith, like. Don't give up. God got you. And not even turn to a religious thing, but if you don't have faith, you don't have nothing.
For sure. And lastly, what's the one thing you want to be, and I know it could be multiple things, but what's one thing you like to be remembered for?
I would say making like a positive impact on lives, whether it's through work, relationships, or a contribution through the community. I try to leave a lasting impression better than when I left it.
For sure.
And that's what I want to be known and left, or whatever my connections is.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lee, in the LBD firm, staffing firm. Amazing interview. Dionte Lee, Mr. Lee, has a special opportunity for Tynee Talks guests. You heard him here on the Tynee Talks podcast. He know what he's talking about. So he's going to be offering 25% off career coaching and resume services if you use the code Tynee for the month of April. So if you're looking for a job, looking to transition, looking to make a lateral move, looking to scale up, he is here to help you. He's very knowledgeable. He's extremely successful. He has the great stories. Follow him. Find him on LinkedIn. There will be show notes. So look into the notes where you can get the code.
All that.
Where can they follow you on social media, Mr. Lee?
Yes, you can follow me on my business page at LBD Staffing Firm. No, I'm sorry. LBD Firm Staffing.
LBD Firm Staffing.
Yep. And then for my personal page, Dmarlee, DMARRLEE at whatever at DMARRLE. I was about to give an email. I'm like, yeah.
If you follow him at LBD Firm Staffing, you'll be able to find his personal social if you want to follow him. And of course, you can follow him on LinkedIn, Dionte Lee, as you can see his name posted there. And there will be in the show notes for you to click on his website link so that you can get those career and resume services using code Tynee. I am so thankful to have you as a guest. I'm so glad to see your growth from a boy to a man,
Boys to men. You see the mentorship program. That was the name of it. And here we are. Check out my newsletter. I'm on LinkedIn. If you follow my social media, you'll find it. I do Firm Talk Fridays that we tap in heavy into what's going on in the current job market, what's going on emotionally with us navigating these job spaces. Offer some great tools and resources to help you navigate those spaces without even working with me. So take advantage of it. We have some great articles that's been there. We got some other stuff coming in. We got some podcast stuff coming too. So I really want to see you guys support. Tell your friends, share. Even if you're not looking,
tell your friends.
Yeah, like somebody's looking for work. Somebody's been.
Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who needs a job. So hit up the LBD Staffing Firm. Tay, in true Tynee Talks fashion, this is your time for your shout out. Who you want to give a shout out to today?
Me?
You want to shout out yourself?
Oh, no, I'm not saying. Are you asking me who I want to give a shout out to all of my clients that have trusted me with their career coaching moments. I have been very successful with landing them jobs, landing them through the first and second round of interviews, and making them feel more confident about themselves as they navigate in this space. So I want to shout out them for trusting me, and then also my clients from the HR strategy side for allowing me and trusting me to do their recruiting and their staffing and hire that right talent that's a good fit. And I want to shout out to you who's about to hire me because it's going to go great together, right? Let's make it work. LBD Firm, I'm here for you guys. And take the hard work out of it. We can make it work. Let's make it work. So yeah.
Take the hard work out of it. Baby, Dionte Lee dropped us some gems today. Customize that resume. If you got let go, it was a business decision. It wasn't personal. There are no bad experiences, just learning experiences. Yes, and sometimes you got to work at a box firm to realize that ain't where you want to be to get to where you need to be.
Yes.
Baby, you dropped the gems on us. Thank you so much, Tay. And I can't wait for this show to air.
Yes, me neither.